Hi guys, and welcome to the show. I'm whispering because it's very early in the morning. It's just gone 5 to 7. It's not that early actually, I've been awake for about 2 hours already, but wristwatch check, got the little Saab, the 033, absolutely gorgeous, and I'm wearing it on that emerald genuine crocodile strap that I bought from Swiss Tech. Really works with that black dial, I think. Now I'm up early because in a moment I've got to shoot off to work, but last night I still managed to find time to make you guys a video. I'm determined not to let you down. Even if I have to work several jobs, I'm still going to make a video. And I'm also whispering because my wife hasn't woken up. I apologize about my tired appearance, but it is still relatively early. Long overdue video. I know a lot of you have been requesting it for absolutely donkeys, but finally today, well late last night, I got around to making it. So without further ado, wristwatch check done, intro done, let's get into this video. Here we are finally doing the Duel. Well, it's a rematch really because these two have clashed before. But the first time the Orient was the previous Orient, the Orient Black Ray. This time it's the Black Ray 2, and this particular version is the Raven, and this is from Orient, obviously. Going up against the reigning champion of the automatic entry-level divers, although I really don't like calling the SKX an entry-level because it's just such a cool diver with an impressive history. It's really become an icon in its own right. So, those of you unfamiliar with the setup of the Duel, there are 10 categories, pretty much self-explanatory. I'll explain them as I go along. There are some nuances in the different categories. For example, style is different from design. Design is more about its function, how it's designed to do the job, whereas style is more about aesthetics. So then we have the two watches here, and as I move the London Tube map, I'm just using this because it's the perfect size. Also it's horology related with this beautiful gilt clock with the subway tunnel where the pendulum swings, which is just a beautiful thing. Without further ado, let's get on with the Duel. So first category is of course value. Now here we see the Orient winning 10 out of 10. It really can't be beat for its price. They're both priced around the $200 mark, although the Orient is closer to $200 and the SKX is nearing $300 now, especially these days with it becoming a little bit more harder to find. It would get a 10 out of 10, however the Orient, with all the new upgrades to its movement and this particular version that's been a kind of refinement on the previous version, I think is just that smidgen better in terms of bang per buck. But don't get me wrong, this SKX gets a very, very strong 9. As they're both entry level, I'm not going to take resale value into too much consideration because basically these are entry level. They're not that expensive to begin with. Having said that, you can find them on the used market and they hold up pretty well considering they are entry level. Okay, moving on to design. Now the Orient Black Ray 2 here gets a solid respectable 8. It really is designed for task, but there are some little things that bring a little bit of annoyance to me. Mainly I find the crown to be a tiny bit undersized. It's not as comfortable and easy to thread as the SKX. The SKX really has a fantastic design. Also, if we look at them both side to side, immediately you realize just how legible the SKX is. Those huge oversized markers, the bigger hands, it's even the loom is a little bit more legible. So, but we'll have a look at the loom shot in just a moment. Both impeccably well designed. Also, the Orient is a slightly smaller, 40mm in diameter, whereas the SKX is 42, although it does wear smaller. I think the 22mm lug width is perfectly suited for the slightly larger SKX. However, 22mm lug width on a 40mm case of the Orient here, I think is a little bit overkill. Too oversized for the actual head of the watch. Just my personal opinion, but it's still a respectable 8. You know, the design, these both are impeccably well designed. However, I do think the SKX also historically has a longer lineage. It's
evolution is a bit more refined, whereas the Orient Ray is only in its second incarnation. Alright, moving on. Movement. Now this is where it gets really interesting. The movement of the Orient Ray, which is the F69, this is a brand new movement released in 2016, so only a year old. A 22 jewel movement, whereas the SKX is a 21 jewel movement. The SKX with the famous 7S26, of course, which is doesn't have the hacking or manual wind option that the new Orient does. You can see why the Orient nips ahead. However, the SKX still gets a solid 8 because at the end of the day, this movement is a continuation of the 7000 series, which dates back all the way to the 70s. The 7S26 itself was released in 1996, but its lineage can be traced all the way back to the 70s, and those iconic Seiko divers that you'll see in Apocalypse Now and all the rest of it. So it's been proven, and that's why it still gets a respectable 8, even though it doesn't have the hacking and manual wind. Oh, and not to mention the increased power reserve of, I think, about 48 hours of the Orient here. Power reserve of the SKX, I think, is only about 40 hours. But at the end of the day, they're both in-house, so they still get really high marks. And they both operate at 21,600 vibrations per hour. The SKX has the proven track record of reliability and robustness. That has yet to be seen. I mean, it's going to take another decade for the Orient to catch up, even more so. Which is the most accurate? Well, we'll discuss that in performance, which is a little bit later on. But I can tell you that so far the Orient is the better performer. Right, moving on. The next category is brand, history and prestige. Well, there's no doubt about it. The SKX here is the clear winner. And you're probably wondering what's on my wrist right now, and I'm keeping it Seiko because I just wanted to give an example. Another hugely iconic watch from Seiko, and this of course is the Ripley Giugiaro from the Aliens franchise, designed by the Italian car designer. And it just goes to show you what amazing designs, length and breadth of the Seiko range from their digital. I mean, look, guys, Seiko is hugely important to the history of horology. Time and time again, they've advanced the whole industry. Seiko's legacy and contribution to horology is undeniable, and also not only technologically speaking, but also in mainstream culture, cinema. Very few brands have that much of an impact on the whole industry as a whole. So 10 out of 10. The Orient really is the underdog here, kind of the new kid on the block. Obviously, it's another Japanese company made in Japan. Like I said, they're both in-house and all the rest of it. However, the Orient has yet to prove itself. But it still gets a respectable 7, merely because of the amount of outstanding models they provide. I mean, the Bambino, for example, and not only that, they have a whole plethora of watches that really haven't been given enough attention, and so I think they're an outstanding brand. They're really going places, and the fact they can offer these kind of watches with entirely in-house movements at this price level is just phenomenal for this level of quality, definitely. And talking of quality, that is the next category, and here the Orient wins with a really strong 9. In my opinion, the finish is that little bit better. The attention to detail, I mean, they've even, if we can see that, they've even signed the crown. There's even applied markers. This is the PVD all black version, but you can see they have applied the markers, even an applied logo. The attention to detail is exquisite, and the quality really is there. I mean, I've never handled an Orient that wasn't near perfect or perfect. You know, I never seem to find anything wrong with Orients. The SKX does suffer from quality control issues every so often. You'll find chapter rings don't align, or there might be a problem with the bezel. Yeah, it doesn't have that solid feeling that the Orient does. If we just compare the Orient very quickly, it's a lot more solid. You do feel the quality there. Obviously, it's not going to feel as refined as a Submariner, but at the end of the day, we're talking about a couple of $100. So there's no doubt that I think the Orient nips ahead, but it's close. A still respectable 8 there for the quality. We must remember, guys, these are a couple of $100. You can't expect heaven and earth for a couple of $100. Okay, moving on to style. In my opinion, the Orient wins here again. Stylistically, even though it's a bit more of a conservative maybe design, it doesn't really push the boat out, but it's subtle. It's not mimicking a Submariner or an SKX or a Seamaster. It's doing its own thing, and it does it very, very well. I love the font they used on the bezel. It's modern, it's contemporary, it's clean, everything is proportioned beautifully, apart from the slight kind of crown. I do think the crown is a little bit undersized for a diver, but at the end of the day, they have signed it. That beautiful heraldic applied logo. These are things that you don't really see on entry-level watches. They've really pushed the boat out, and I think everything works in tandem together, from the hands to the chapter ring. I think the chapter ring is done slightly more subtle. It's not as loud as the SKX. The SKX is a bit of a Marmite, has that Marmite effect. It's a little bit more divisive in its appeal, whereas the Orient, I think, is the crowd pleaser. It does have that refinement. I think it is a slightly more refined execution than the SKX. It's a very good looking piece, especially in this PVD. It's just gorgeous. It's a rough and tumble watch. It looks like it's built for business, and it certainly is. Stylistically, I think they really got it right with this version by removing that second crown, which was I think an unnecessary. They cleaned it up, and yeah, it's gorgeous. It is gorgeous. I even like those little kind of indentations on the bezel, on the markers, just to, you can just feel where they are with your fingers. It's very subtle. It's very, very subtle. It's a handsome piece. It looks much more expensive than it really is. The SKX, on the other hand, stylistically, its main feature that I absolutely adore is, if we can just see it there, that iconic Kanagawa wave by Hokusei, the famed Japanese artist. If you've seen the original beautiful woodblock print, I think it is, of the wave, it's these little details that make it quite desirable, and I just make it so memorable, especially from earlier years. It's a little bit dated now, maybe. Its cushion case is an acquired taste, especially where the crown is. Stylistically, it has a more Marmite effect. Some people absolutely can't stand the SKX. Totally understandable. That's absolutely fine. Other people love them and swear by them. I'm obviously in the latter. It's matted dial with that kind of off blue, that dark off blue. It's a very subtle blue, almost black, almost grey actually, almost like a dark grey. The colour of the date window and the shapes of the they're not applied, but the lumen markers. It's just, there's just something special about it, and that little dash of orange. It's playful, it's fun, it's got its own character and its own personality, and it's unmistakably an SKX. It's not trying to be anything else, and I really do adore it, and I love the edges as well. Obviously it's a bit more of an acquired taste, however, in my opinion, I think the Orient is the crowd pleaser, and especially with that little dash of red on the second hand, it's a really nice touch. Anyway, moving on, performance. Well, there's no surprise that with the increased power reserve, with the manual wind option as well, and hacking seconds, there's no surprise that the Orient wins here with a 9 out of 10. Its power reserve, I think, is about 48 hours. I've clocked it at just shy of 2 days. I'm not sure the precise figure, but it's very, very impressive. I would give it a 10, but the only thing that's stopping it is, as I said, it's a new movement. Time really has to prove just how great it is. It's not as proven as the SKX, and I'm sure, you know, if we revisit this watch a decade from now and it proves to be as reliable and robust as the SKX, then yeah, it will get a 10. Accuracy wise, I'm definitely getting a strong result from the Orient. I can't believe I'm getting like +6 a day. The Seiko is a little bit more touchy, tends to be a bit of more of a varied accuracy, but the Orient definitely is the more accurate of the two. They do state the parameters of this new F69 movement is about plus 25, minus 15, so mine is well within that. The Seiko I'm getting, you know, still within that range, but more, I would say plus 9, plus 10 a day, which is absolutely fine for this price range. Actually, more than enough, it really is. However, despite the shortcomings of the movement, there is one slight advantage with the SKX, and that is the loom. So let's quickly have a look at the loom shot right now. And as you can see, I think the Seiko is a tiny bit brighter. Not that different, but the sheer size of the loom on the Seiko just is unmistakable. I gotta say, the Orient is good. It really is good. The Seiko does last a little bit longer and is a fraction brighter and more equally spread, I would say, than the Orient. The Orient really isn't bad. Anyway, great loom all round, but I think the Seiko's a flick better. Anyway, back to the studio. The only reason I give it an 8 is because I do like being able to set the seconds accurately with hacking. It's not hacking. That is my major annoyance. Some people really don't like the fact you can't manually wind it, but you do what's called Seiko shuffle, which is just like dealing cards, and it's just like manually winding it, only not with a crown, by moving it. So the lack of manual wind isn't a big deal for me, but some people it really irritates them. Me, it's more about the hacking. But anyway, a strong 8, because at the end of the day, guys, this is proven over the years. And that kind of brings me into the next category, durability. There's no doubt about it, the SKX gets 10. This watch has been known to go 15, even more years without service. It's just one of those hugely robust, reliable timepieces, and it's well respected from connoisseurs to beginners. This is ISO certified. It's you know, many divers swear by them, and quite understandably so. Also, we have deer shot protection built into the movement, which just makes it more robust. That track record, like we mentioned earlier with the 7000 series movement, when you've been making divers for 30 years, you learn something, and that gets incorporated into the design of the SKX. So that really does mean something, and it's just got such a track record of reliability, and the fact that you don't really have to service it for so long is an indication of just how bulletproof this movement really is. So you can only really give it 10 out of 10. Durability wise, I think the Orient falls a little bit short here. Solid 8 all the same, because at the end of the day, they're both 200 meter water resistant, which is impeccable at this price range. But the Orient does have hardened mineral crystal, whereas the SKX has Hardlex, which is Seiko's own proprietary crystal, and from my experience I think the Hardlex is a little bit stronger, a little bit tougher. Obviously not like sapphire, it's not going to have the Vickers of sapphire, but once again, these are a few $100s. You can't expect everything. A solid 8, but of course 10 out of 10 for the Seiko there. Moving on, versatility. Well, there's no doubt that the Seiko wins 10 out of 10 here again, mainly because of the modding culture that sprung up around especially the SKX. I mean, these things are infinitely moddable. You can change just about everything from the dial to the date wheel, the hands, the bezel. You can do all kinds, and there's so many people that offer this kind of service. It's a really fun way to get your own completely unique diver, and it's something I have yet to do. I was planning to actually do a special Urban Gentry SKX, but the cost just became exorbitant. However, if you want to mod yours, it's not that expensive to do. It's just expensive to do, you know, on a mass scale of, you know, if you try and mod 1,000 SKX, it's going to cost a fortune. But anyway, versatility is endless because you can really play with its look. You can make it more dressy, more tool-like. You can have all kinds of different shaped bezels, colors. It's limitless. So the versatility, I've got to give it a 10 out of 10. However, the standard SKX, it is very tooly. Some people do like it on a leather strap, especially the 007, I think, with the black dial and bezel is even more versatile. Yeah, infinitely versatile. I could only get 10 out of 10. Orient, however, you know, it's only in its second generation. Also, it comes in 3 flavors. The SKX, you know, you can get the mid-size version for the smaller wrist, increasing the versatility. You can get there's an orange dial. There's various versions. So the range from Orient is a little bit more limited. Also, we don't have that modding culture surrounding it because it's it's still relatively new in the whole scheme of things. But still a solid 8, because I think actually you can dress these up and you can dress them down. They're quite versatile. I think even the this one is very tool-like because of the PVD kind of stealth aesthetics. It's very military, and hence why I put it on this simple NATO strap. Having said that, it would look just as good on black mesh. In fact, I did have it on black mesh before this. So its versatility is still up there. The blue dial version in stainless steel I think is even a little bit more dressier. So it's still quite a versatile piece. Okay, moving on, the last category, and that is X Factor. It's no surprise here that the SKX wins again with a solid 10. You only have to watch All Is Lost with Robert Redford and see it on his wrist to understand that it's something out of the ordinary. And also, you'll see collectors with super high-end collections, and sitting there, you know, in a box of 10 watches, there'll be 9 super duper pieces, and sitting in the corner, minding its own business, holding its own, there with the big boys, will be a Seiko SKX. It's respected from all levels of collectors, so that just gives you an indication just how iconic this watch is. It has that special X factor in the bucket loads, and the fact that it's been in so many movies, it's got such a strong following also with real professional divers, speaks volumes about its design. The Orient, however, gets a kind of a low 7, but at the same time it's still got something special about it. I think what it really does score well at is Orient still is a brand that's not that well known by the mainstream. I mean, Orient tends to be loved more by watch aficionados and those in the know. It's not a brand that has that mainstream appeal yet, whereas Seiko, everybody's heard of Seiko. Not everybody has heard of Orient, and in a way that's kind of cool because it makes it a watch brand, an affordable watch brand for the connoisseur, and I love that, and I think that's where its X factor lies. So it still gets a respectable 7, but obviously nowhere near the iconic legendary status of the SKX. So let's tally up the scores and see the final result, and it's no surprise the SKX gets a staggering 90 and the Orient Ray 2 with an 85. Now, the scores for the SKX, I must point out, have changed since last time. That's just due to my personal relationship and getting to know this watch again, because I haven't really owned it properly since my teenage years. So the scores, I did change the scores for the SKX, and I think it reflects my changing perception of the watch, and especially as it's really becoming even more sought after these days, especially this Japanese version. So a respectable, strong 85, but nowhere near enough to take the lead from the SKX. It's just at the end of the day, guys, the Orient may have the better movement, it may even look better, it may be the better watch, but it doesn't have that history, that proven reliability, that following with the divers, that respect with the connoisseurs, that established iconic status that the SKX has. And that's why the SKX will always, in my opinion, be the top entry-level automatic diver for around the $200 to $300 mark. It's just unbeatable, and probably the only thing that could beat an SKX at this price range would be another Seiko diver. Nothing in its price range can come close. There is no comparison. I would say though, if you are having difficulty deciding between the two, you can't go wrong with either. So the SKX is still the reigning champion. Anyway guys, let's take it back to the studio.
Okay, welcome back guys. Now don't forget to add your comments, queries and questions and all the rest of it down below in the comments. I really do appreciate your feedback. Thank you so much for watching. Also, don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, found it useful. It really does help me, so please don't forget to hit that like button. And as always guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao.